Hey guys, Pete Weintraub, permanent weight loss specialist here. Today I want to talk about a couple of things. One, is pasta good for weight loss? And then a couple of ways you can either prepare pasta or some substitutes so that you don't feel like you're missing out. So let's start off with pasta. As a permanent weight loss specialist, as someone who's been in the health and fitness industry for 10 years, I can tell you that when I review my clients' nutrition at day one, right when they start, all of them, almost bar none, start off eating troves of grains, bread, cereal, pasta, rice, you name it. And they're wondering why they can't lose weight because there is a lot of onus in our society today about calories and portions. And that if you use an app like MyFitnessPal, you know how tall you are, how much you weigh, and how much you want to weigh once your weight loss journey is over. Then you can calculate all that and it'll tell you how many calories you need to eat. Or if you're just looking to watch your portions or you're on Weight Watchers and you're watching your points, this is something you can do too. Now, unfortunately, this only works to a certain extent. These are both short-term weight loss strategies that do work, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're looking to keep the weight off for a long period of time, it's not really going to be conducive. And now in this country, the United States, I'm not quite sure about the health history in other countries, but back in the 1950s here in the United States, our dietary guidelines were first created, and they weren't created by dietitians or nutritionists or scientists. In fact, they were created by bureaucrats who had created ties with lobbyists from the sugar, wheat or grain, and corn industries. So obviously, the incidences of cardiovascular disease and obesity in this country were rising, and they were starting to alarm some people because up until around that time, it was very rare for folks to suffer from obesity or for folks to suffer from heart disease. And one can argue that perhaps this was misdiagnosed, at least in the form of heart disease. Obesity, obviously, it's a very visible condition, but they were looking into why this was. And unfortunately, a lot of the science, even back from that time, showed, and even back dating back to the 1800s and prior to that in medical texts, they knew that grains and sugars, processed foods, were not good for us. And that if anyone wanted to lose weight and improve their health, one of the first things they had to do was remove that stuff. Now, unfortunately, because of the food pyramid, which was the first iteration, now it's MyPlate here in the States in terms of the dietary guidelines. The food pyramid, up until about 5-10 years ago when MyPlate was instituted, recommended that the average American get 6 to 12 servings of healthy whole grains every single day. MyPlate has backed that off to 6, but still it's a considerable amount considering I don't believe any other food group, that includes fruits and vegetables, don't have more than 3 to 4 servings in a single day. So as you can imagine, as grains have become more and more processed, more and more refined, and as a result, their nutritional value, which was barely existent to begin with, continued to get worse and worse over the decades. It's now a non-nutritious food. I mean, let's face it. If you go into the store and you buy a loaf of bread or you buy a box of pasta, what does it often say there? It's been fortified with different vitamins and minerals. Here's a news flash. If a food has to be fortified with vitamins and minerals, that means there were hardly, if any, vitamins or minerals there in the first place. In which case, why the hell are you eating it? Several scientific studies over the past 100 years have linked excess grain consumption to chronic inflammation. So if you suffer from joint pain and stiffness and you eat a lot of grains, that might in and of itself be why you're suffering. If you're overweight as well, obviously losing some of the weight will help, but eliminating an inflammatory food group will certainly do you a lot of good. So grains are not nutritious in any way, shape, or form. And because they're very dense in nature, they're carbohydrates, and our body doesn't quite know how to process them, a lot of people become inflamed, bloated, they have digestive issues. It wreaks havoc on your gut health, which in recent years has been cited as being the most important area in terms of whether or not your body functions optimally, whether or not you're able to metabolize the different macronutrients, the fats, proteins, and carbs of the world properly. And as a result, a lot of people are overweight because of it. And often it may not be due to the excess portions or calories that they eat. It might be due to the excessive amount of this particular food group, that being grains. So obviously, most popular pastas that you'll find in different boxes and brands at the store are made out of wheat flour, among other things. And while they may be fortified with vitamins and minerals, that's about all the nutrition you're going to get out of that box. It's not good for you. And one of the first things I do with my clients is we cut out the grains. They eat a lot of bread, we cut that out. They eat a lot of pasta, we cut that out. Same goes with rice, same goes with cereal. And you may ask, well, what are they going to eat? Now look, grains, especially wheat, incredibly addictive. The gliadin protein in wheat, for example, has psychotropic properties that'll really make the weaning off process very difficult for you. So for between 3 days and 2 weeks, and it could sometimes take longer, depends on the person, you can go through withdrawal symptoms like shakes. You may be very irritable. You may get the sweats when you try to sleep at night. You may have really, really intense cravings, and it's obviously not good. So when you're trying to kick it, it's hard to go cold turkey. It really is. So what I recommend people do is a couple of things. First, I have a healthy recipe book. I have 72 recipes spanning breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, appetizers, and desserts. You can find that at weightlossbypete.com/food guide recipes. And basically what this recipe book will enable you to do is you can have your cake and eat it too. You just got to make it with healthier ingredients. So for example, I have a healthy bread recipe in there. There's no wheat flour or anything grain-based in there. It's made out of different types of flour. There's different noodle dishes, a pasta dish and more of an Asian, stir-fry dish. But all in all, you can eat similar tasting and better for you food. You just have to often prepare it for yourself. So pasta is not good for weight loss. If you're looking to lose weight, it's hard to lose weight when you're bloated and inflamed in and of itself. And it's a very dense carbohydrate. And being that carbohydrates out of the 3 macronutrients are the only non-essential macronutrient, meaning we do not need to ingest copious amounts of carbohydrates in order to function optimally, there's really no point in eating giant bowls of pasta when you can get the same kick from a healthier vegetable alternative. So what I'll often have my clients do, and I'll give you some free advice right now, is really simple. Go to the grocery store and you'll have one of 2 options. I know here in my area, here in New York, they have pre-done spiralized squash and zucchini noodles. You literally pick up a pack out of a refrigerator in the produce section. You just bring it home, and then you can either boil it in hot water, much like you would with regular wheat-based pasta, or you can saute it. Now, you got to be careful with what you saute the noodles in, because if you use an omega-6 dense oil, then you're going to have some issues, because once these are heated past their heating point, they hydrogenate. Their chemical composition changes, and they go from being an omega-6 rich oil to becoming trans fat. Now, trans fat is a man-made carcinogenic substance. Well, it's not entirely man-made, but we get the most of our intake of trans fat from merely hydrogenating omega-6 rich oils or foods in general. And as a result, we can leave ourselves susceptible to obesity, heart disease, various forms of cancer. It's not something you want to ingest willingly. So the 2 things that I'll saute my squash or zucchini noodles in are either organic butter or avocado oil. Either one of those will work perfectly fine. That's all you have to do. And it takes minutes. It cooks a lot faster than traditional pasta. So within 5 minutes of boiling or sauteing, it'll be done. It'll be a nice texture similar to that of pasta. It tastes great. You can add to it whatever you want, and it's good for you. It's not going to have any of the negative effects that a wheat-based pasta would, either on your health or on your waistline. So that is my tip of the day. Is pasta good for weight loss? Absolutely not. It's not even good for your health. It's something that I would highly recommend you kick out of your diet, along with other grains like breads, cereal, and rice. And then to top it all off, you can get some substitutes at the grocery store. And something I should also mention, if they don't have the pre-spiralized packages of spiralized squash or zucchini noodles, then you can buy a spiralizer on Amazon or somewhere online. They even sell them at the grocery stores. They're really cheap. I think I got mine for like $8, and it takes 2 seconds. It's just almost like slicing meat at a deli. You put the squash or zucchini in between these two clamps, and then you just churn it out, and it takes the zucchini or squash from its kind of cylindrical state into these noodles. And you just put a plate or a bowl below the machine, you crank it out, it's all there, and then you decide whether or not you want to boil or saute it. Now, personally, I would recommend you saute it. And the reason being is that vegetables, especially fresh organic vegetables, which I would recommend you get in either case, whether you get squash or zucchini, they're water dense. So if you're boiling them in water, you're adding more water to an already water dense food. I feel like it gets a little too mushy for my taste, so that's why I like to saute it. You may like it mushy, so it's entirely up to you, but those are your two options just right off the bat. And I'm sure if you just Google a whole bunch of healthy zucchini or squash noodle recipes, you'll find a healthy sauce made out of organic ingredients, or maybe there are even some healthy brands. I know by us, there's a restaurant, an Italian restaurant in Brooklyn called Rayo's, and they actually, in the grocery stores around here, whether it's like a conventional grocery store or a health food grocery store, they sell jars of their tomato marinara and a whole bunch of different sauces. So I'll get the marinara sauce for me and my girlfriend, and we'll use that for different things that we make as we see fit. So I hope this helped you today. And if you're interested in learning more about some of the healthy recipes you can utilize so you can feel like you can have your cake and eat it too without the negative health consequences and without gaining weight or having trouble losing weight, then you want to check out my recipe book. You'll also want to check out my food guide. The food guide goes through the 3 phases of nutrition that I go through with my clients. You start off with the 80-20 rule. You just clean things up a bit. So 80% of the time, eat healthily. In the guide, I explain what that is. 20% of the time, you can have your usual fun. Then phase 2, cleaning it up. You're going to try to get as close to 100% as possible. So you're really going to cut out all the crap. Use the recipe book kind of as a barometer. You can also, after reading the food guide, you'll have a very good understanding of what foods are beneficial to you. And that way, you can find healthy recipes online and you'll know whether or not they're conducive to eating a healthy diet. And then lastly, phase 3, if you want to track your macronutrients and you really want to shred up fast, let's say you have a wedding or some event coming up, or you have a beach vacation, whatever the case may be, then there are certain ways to manipulate your macronutrients. And I go over how to do that so that you'll shred up. It's not the most sustainable way, phase 3, but if you want to see results faster, then I'd suggest you go there. Phases 1 and 2 are more for sustainability purposes and just having a good general understanding of how simple it is to eat healthy and not feel like you're depriving yourself of anything. I hope you found this informative. So do me a favor, if you like this video, please subscribe down here, button below. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud or iTunes, please feel free to subscribe. I'm going to do at least 5 of these every single week. And for that, I am Pete Weintraub, permanent weight loss specialist. You can check me out at weightlossbypete.com. Thanks so much for listening or watching, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.